kinds of variables do I have? Um, what kinds of variables do I have? So here I have my X and my Y variables. Well, if both are nominal, which is categorical, I'll do a chi-square. If both are interval or ratio, I'll do a correlation or a regression. So something like this can really help with situations where you have to make choices. Students in health fields as well might find something like this useful. So if you're doing differential diagnoses, or you're plotting out what sort of course of action you're going to take depending on, say, how a patient answers a question, a decision tree might be very useful for that. Any student who has to learn lists might find visuals useful as well. So for instance, in my case here, it's called medication X, and these are the possible side effects: red skin, constipation, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, acne, and anxiety. So anytime you have to learn a list, concept mapping is a great way to help you remember that information. So for instance, in this case, what I first do is I color code. So this particular strategy incorporates color coding, which is a visual strategy, as well as concept mapping. So first, what I'm doing is I'm categorizing all of my items based on similarity. So thematic similarity. So red skin and acne, I put those ones together. Plus I used the red, what should I say, the red ink, because I feel like that's connected to the concept. Then constipation, nausea, vomiting, those are abdominal ones. So these red ones are skin, the purple ones are abdominal side effects, and then the black one here, fatigue and anxiety, those are emotional or subjective side effects. So the first thing I did was I color coded according to groups, which side effects I think belong together. And the next thing I did was I made a concept map. So here we've got the 7 items that you need to remember, but they're clustered. So red skin and acne are under skin, nausea, constipation, nausea, vomiting are under stomach or abdominal, and then fatigue and anxiety are here under emotion. And like I said, I still kept the color coding, so the black, the purple, and the red. So we have 2 visual strategies happening here. We have the color and the concept map. A table of repeated categories can also be a really good visual. So far I've been talking more about concept maps and webs and that kind of thing, but any kind of visual is useful. So if, let's say, you're taking an English class and you're comparing 2 stories, you have 2 stories, and for each one, you're learning summary, you're learning about a theme of race, theme of isolation, and theme of identity. What you can do is, for every story, you could put in the information like this and the information like this. You've got every story summarized. But the other thing you can also do is then you could look up and down this way and make the comparisons this way. So that's the nice thing about a table, is that you can make comparisons up and down. And this doesn't just have to be for stories. This can be for theories. It could be for, say, if you're, in medicine and you're looking at heart diseases and you're comparing them and contrasting them. It could be anytime you're comparing or contrasting, some things, whether it's 2 things, 3 things. It could be, medications. It could be anything. Studying images, when you yourself have images already given to you, say, in your notes or your textbook, or, whatever the case is, make analogies. So look at the images for sure and read about them, but make analogies. You could draw something or imagine it as well. So you could say, how is a neuron like a roller coaster? Or how is a cell like a house? So, I read a book where someone said that when she was thinking about neurons, which are, the cells in your brain, she was imagining herself actually riding along along the action potential. Excuse me. So that is something a person could always do. And then you could always draw out your image or use mental imagery, which is like your imagination. I should point out that imagery works really well on paper, and it works equally well in your imagination. If you want to use visual imagery, if you want to make the pictures in your mind, you could do that as well. You could also do pictures on paper, whatever you prefer. It doesn't really matter. Concept mapping can also help for note taking. So there's the Cornell method of notes. So you have the some of the main points over here, and then some of the details here. So if you wanted to convert your notes into something like this after class, that's perfectly fine, and this would be considered visual. Time management, any sorts of time management strategies that you make, say, on a calendar are very visual. So if you've got your classes and your labs over here identified, and then you've got some study blocks here. The only thing with the study blocks is that I would always make sure that I'm rotating between tasks. So if I have, say, this study block that's a few hours, that I'm not just focusing on one thing, that I'm, say, working a little bit on one class, then have a bit of a break, and then maybe work on something else, and then have a bit of a break, just so that I'm not just focusing on one thing. And I believe there is a time management session actually coming up right after this particular session. So if you want more information on time management, by all means, please feel free to join that next session. Again, this is an example of a process. And here we also have some color coding. So, for instance, in this case, this person is making a Muppet. And here are the big steps. So cut the fabric, create the puppet's skin and arms, cover the puppet form, and assemble the puppet's mouth. And then these are the details. So the fleece fabric on the flat surface, and I apologize, the surface is spelled incorrectly on this image. And then you would pin the pre-made fabric patterns to the fabric, and you would cut the fabric. So this is an example of a flow chart of how you could have, say, a process, or if, let's say, you're looking at the events in history or a biological process or something. Brainstorming, if you cluster related ideas together, so you're writing a paper, or you're planning some kind of a project, you're clustering all the related ideas together. That's a visual and tactile strategy. A visual can also be used to help you learn a vocabulary. So if you have, say, a polygon as your vocabulary word, then you have your definition and your details here and some examples. So I know I recently was speaking with someone who is whose first language isn't English, it's a different language. And I suggested this, and I could say you could even have like a little actual physical picture that represents the word, on the side. And the person really liked the idea of using visuals to help remember vocabulary, because that was one of their areas of concern. If you have to do a presentation, so for instance, let's say you have a lesson, and then you have a story to illustrate the lesson, and then another story. Something like this could really be useful for helping you remember what you need to say in your presentation. You could have the main ideas here, some of, later details here, and some of the later details here. For a presentation, something like this can also work really well. So these are, say, the sections of your presentations, the main ideas, and then some of the details here. And then you could talk about, the different details, and you could even have this in front of you when you're presenting. So what I've done basically, what I've done is I've shown you a whole bunch of concept maps, a whole bunch of examples. So what I'll invite you to do now is you could pause the video. I'll invite you to make one of your own concept maps. I'll invite you to grab some paper, or go into PowerPoint or Word, and create a concept map based on something that you yourself are studying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute my mic, and I'm going to wait for 10 minutes because I realize some people might be live streaming this session. So what I'll do is I'll wait for 10 minutes, and then I'll just do a quick follow-up after the session, just to see, get whoever's watching this video, this live stream, or watching this video, get some of that reflection. It's always important to reflect on what you've learned, to get that metacognition going. Metacognition is thinking about your thinking. And some of the questions that we'll be asking after we've created our concept maps will encourage that sort of metacognition. So I'm going to pause now, like I said, for 10 minutes. if you are watching this on YouTube, you could, take 10 minutes or you could pause your video and I'll invite you to make a concept map now. And if anyone's watching the live stream, if you have finished your concept map, if you've made one and you wish to make another one or another visual, by all means, please do that. Like I said, we've got 10 minutes for this activity, and you could do as much or as little as you wish during those 10 minutes. And by the way, what I'll do is I'll put my chat email in the chat as well. So it's MK11, so the number 11 ualberta.ca. So if anybody has any questions at any point, just feel free to email me. Once again, it's MK, so my initials, then the number 11 at ualberta.ca. And by all means, please feel free to send me an email if you have any questions, or if you'd like me to see your concept map. If you've made one and you want to take a picture or screenshot or whatever and email it to me, that's absolutely okay. Just take 2 more minutes and then I'll just do the little reflection with you at the end. Before I wrap it up, I just want to talk about really quickly concept mapping or online software. I know that there are many apps and things like that that allow you to make concept maps, and it's often free. The only thing I would recommend is that you really read the terms and conditions, because on one site, for instance, if in order to use this free app, you say you grant this company a worldwide royalty-free license to use, reproduce, distribute, modify, adapt, create derivative works from, and otherwise exploit your content for the purpose of providing the services, including technical support and account management services to you as otherwise permitted by XXX. So the idea is that, if you use some of these free online softwares or apps, sometimes they maintain the copyright to whatever you produced on there. So then your concept map or your diagram or whatever might show up in some of their advertising or whatever it is. So I would just be really careful. If you want to use computer, digital space to use your to create your concept maps, what you can always do is you can go into Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint. You could use either one. And under insert, it says insert, and then you could say smart art. And that's something you could always do is insert smart art, and you could create all kinds of different visuals right in Microsoft Word or right in PowerPoint. Once again, you go into insert up at the top, and then it says smart. You'll pick the option of smart art. Okay, so I hope that making a concept map was useful for you. I'd like you to take a few minutes to reflect on where and how you can use concept mapping and how it can help you. Hopefully, by making your own concept map, you've seen the benefit of concept mapping for learning and memory. And certainly, please reflect upon how else you might use concept mapping or in what other contexts. Or different types of concept maps you might make in different contexts. By all means, but like I said earlier, feel free to send me an email. My email, once again, is mk, so my initials, and then the number 11 at ualberta.ca. So please feel free to email me if you have any questions. Thanks for watching this live stream and or the recorded video, and enjoy making your concept maps, and have a great rest of your day.